All right, hello and welcome to VOP This Morning. I'm Moses Humphrey. Now, President Tinubu on Monday presided over his inaugural Executive Council meeting. His spokesman says the president will fire any minister who underperforms. Now, this is what we'll be looking at. Plus, the Edo State governor and his deputy heading for the worst possible war between a governor and his deputy in Nigeria's political history. Now, these, of course, are the topics we'll focus on this morning as we head into the morning show. This is VOP This Morning. In the meantime, we'd like you to click and subscribe to our page on YouTube. It's Voice of the People TV. But first off, before we get started with the show proper, let's head into what the front pages are saying. And as usual, with me in the studio is VOP in-house analyst Cyril Abaku. Good morning to you, Cyril.
Good morning, Moses.
What would I would say, okay, I was going to ask you what you think will make, will be the headline for most of the pages. Is it the president saying I will sack or the crisis in Niger?
I'm afraid none of those. First, the president's spokesman saying his boss is going to fire anybody who doesn't perform. Of course, it's big news. It made the headlines yesterday. And I'm sure it's going to be in the front pages of the print, which we're going to look at. But then, the president held his first executive council meeting yesterday, with his ministers, his first inaugural. So that
and all of them saying, okay, giving them the matching orders.
Matching orders, yes. I think that's what is most likely going to be.
Okay,
yes.
So let's dive in now. Okay, so from the Guardian newspaper, banner headline here is unwieldy appointments of SSAs, SAs, PAs deplete lean resources in poor states. On top of that one, we have Lagos Assembly insists on rejection of 17 commissioner nominees. OAU bans hugging, sitting on laps, skimpy dresses, tattoos, others on campus. Interesting. Taking us back to the old days where morals were upheld. Registrars indicted over unclaimed dividend as figure rises by 94% in 24 years. And then when you go further down the paper, the cover page of the paper, we have Tinubu gives ministers marching order to revive economy. Okay, well, it's not the banner headline, which of course it should be, but hey, it's still here anyway. Not yet Uhuru for creative industry financing. Yes, so these are the headlines on the cover page of the Guardian newspaper. Cyril, before you respond, let me take another paper so we can lump both together. From the Punch newspaper, we have FEC unfolds 3-year economic revival plan. Tinubu warns ministers to achieve first phase of Tinubu's 8-point agenda within 3 years. Tinubu inherited bad economy. Youth unemployment unacceptable. Minister. All right. And then we have Cameroon Dam flood to hit states in 7 days. FG. NBS kicks as statistician general false new employment data. Extraction firms underpaid $10 billion in taxes, royalties, NAITI. All right, so let's take these ones. I'll take the other ones later.
Oh, well, let's go back to the Guardian, right?
Okay.
Where you have, and I commend the Guardian because for some time now they've adopted an issues-based approach to journalism. They don't just look at what is newsy, but they like to look at what issues that are affecting the polity. Now, for example, new governors have come. There was a governor who is a minister with the president today, who as governor had office of the first lady, office of the second wife, office of the in-law to the governor. I hope you heard what I was saying.
Yes.
Had all these offices. I think we do these things in part because we're not sweating for the money we're using to run these things. There's free money coming from Abuja, which Abuja also sweatlessly gets from the Niger Delta. So nobody's thinking about how to make money. The money just keeps on flowing in. This grant system, this rentier system, this handouts that we are doing in Nigeria, will have an expiry date, obviously. It cannot continue. A governor can sit back because he's not working for the money and just appoint up to 1,000, ridiculously up to 1,000 to 2,000, 5,000 advisors. What is he doing with that? 200 essays, an essay on timekeeping. I think there was even one that had an essay on how to breed his dogs or something. You know, you're making a caricature of government. It's a travesty of management processes. You don't do this. That is even and those are the extras. Look at America, for example. Population-wise, they are bigger. Responsibility-wise, they are bigger. Financial strength, they are bigger. Militarily, they are bigger. America has more responsibility than Nigeria can ever have in another 2 centuries. But do you know there are only 18 secretaries at the federal government of the US? Only 18 ministers. Nigeria has 40-something ministers, and they are telling us that this is the way to go. It's not the way to go. Okay? In many states, even for the best of governors, I don't think any Nigerian state needs more than 20 commissioners, first of all. You don't need that much. 1, we are packing too much powers at the center. 2, governors, when they've come into power, because our politics is still very bad, there are so many IOUs. Your community leaders will send you a recommendation for essay. Maybe a friend will send you one for essay. If the party has people that want the essay, your old best group for essay. Everybody. This way, we cannot grow and develop politics. We cannot grow and develop governance. We cannot develop the value system that should help us to be a better society. So don't be surprised. But the fact is, they don't hear, and they know that when you have enough job for the boys, tomorrow you are sure that's the price you pay, and you'll be blessed to go to Abuja and become minister tomorrow. So it's the culture, it's the way it's done. Everybody wants to be in politics because politics still remains the most lucrative industry in the country. But we must work on changing that, Moses. We must work on changing that. Then let's come back to one of the other stories on the second paper. Maybe we should look at the dam story.
Okay.
They said about the function of government is not to tell us that bad things are going to happen. That's not their work. It's not to read out statistics about what's coming. In all the headlines, none of the editors have been able to attach what government is doing about the dams to the headlines. Either because it's not weighty, because it's not strong enough, or because it's not there.
Well, government has asked people to move to...
That is not the work of government. To move to where? Just evacuate and start running. It is not the first time this dam will be busting, that they'll be opening it, that the people in Cameroon will do what they ought to do. I find it really, really funny. The water is going to hit us in 7 days, and it is not you're telling us that we should be moving away. Goodness. And that's all you have to say. You're looking for schools that you cannot use as resettlement places for people who are owners of homes. We are not being fair to ourselves. This is what we should have done now. Number 1, given that we have a common challenge with the waters from that dam in Cameroon, does Nigeria, and they may have all this, does Nigeria not have a joint monitoring board between the 2 countries that helps to forecast and 3 months to time to say, and then in Nigeria to also have places that are purpose built for people who, and then more importantly, look what America did with the Panama Canal that they handed over back to Panama now. It was not there. The Panama Canal was a man-made canal. Theodore Roosevelt took the pains upon himself to say we're going. They took bulldozers and dynamites that they blasted the land and tore that place, and water began to flow so that they could have easy access to, I think, 2 oceans or so. What stopped us from creating something that is also, to say, okay, when this water is released from a receptacle, to say, and then if we take it in, we can use it to generate power. You don't have more problems of dams and tsunamis and flooding like they do in Japan and the Philippines and all these places. What have they done that we are not doing? You don't have more water than Holland has. What have they done that you're not doing? So this one that you're working to carry megaphone and say the flood is going to come in 7 days, be on the run. I mean, we should be ashamed of ourselves in all of these things. I told Lester yesterday, I said, a country that has many universities, look at from UI to Ibadan to Benin to Zaria to Port Harcourt to Ilorin and all these places. Do you mean to tell me that in more than 50 years of scientific research, Nigerian scholars have not been able to find out what you're not, Nigerian geographers and agriculture have not been able to tell us what government can do? to resolve this problem. Man was not made for nature. Nature was made for man. Man controls nature. That's why we can put a place in the sky. Before now, it was not, as Newton said, whatever goes up must come down. The law of aerodynamics has broken it and said some things can go up and hang there. How did we make ships that stay on water? Meanwhile, a ship has more weight than you do. Step on water and see whether you whether you sink or walk on water. So this is the thing. We are not, and the ship that floats on water can carry a human being who will float who will sink if he went on water directly. But it's because God has given science. No, God made the earth and gave it. Man has what it takes. But we have just chosen to live that civilization, which is really funny.
Funny, indeed. Some more headlines from the Punch here. We have Abiodun diverted Ogun LG's allocations, 10.8 billion naira bailout. Council boss alleges. Tenant bites off neighbor's ear over electricity bill. NLC FMBN clash over 238 billion naira National Housing Fund. All right, Cyril.
Well, Moses, let's come. If the governor is taking money is meant for local government councils, it's not supposed to be. Yeah, he can allege because in politics, as in every other thing, in politics, when matters like this come up, they like to seek public sympathy for themselves and against the person that is in the spotlight. But the matter is, the council chairman can write to the EFCC to investigate what. Don't just come to the newspapers and say, write to the EFCC and tell them to investigate this matter.
Of course.
Okay, they can do their due diligence and keep it somewhere. When the governor is out of office, they can pick him up. So that's what it should be. It's not enough to allege, because maybe ostensibly what should happen now is the governor now says, no, we didn't take the money. Now sends the money down to the local government areas. You and I will not be there to know what they do with the money at the council level either. Okay, so don't just allege. Make it, as they say, no. Don't just get angry. Get a lawyer. So don't just allege. If you have the facts and evidence, put it in writing and make it formal and take it to the EFCC. Let them also see that so Nigerians can have a basis to look at what's going on, and then also the governor will know that the governor now has a case to answer with the anti-corruption people.
All right. You don't want to touch on the human angle about the tenants biting off. Yeah. It points to poverty and frustration in the land.
But these things have always been there. That one is not. Of course, the current set of things have contributed to that. But it's not. We can't say that is solely the sole reason why that happened. But the fact is that in every generation, these things won't just happen. They will happen because something is making them to happen. And right now, what's making these things to happen is the question of the hardship in the land. The other day it was that a cat pusher took away the woman's tomato and things she was going to buy in the market.
Run away with it.
I mean, so now of course, maybe they have a common meter that they all contribute money to for life or whatever. And when the other person is not paying, I once went to, is it a tenement building? Then you see there's a list. People to wash the bathroom, people to pay for lawnmower sanitation and so on. And so Baba did Oga did it, organizer like that. They had their names on the list. So if one person has always been absconding from paying, whenever it's time to pay, you won't see him again in the compound. Whenever it's time to pay, he says his son is sick somewhere and so on. Then they said we'll go wait for him when he comes. Maybe he's been owing, and now he wants to pack and run away. You can expect any of those things.
All right, let's move to let's go to another paper now. Let's go to the Daily Trust. The Daily Trust has its banner headline: President Tinubu unveils 8-point agenda, warns ministers against underperformance. We inherited very bad economy. Edu, find short-term solutions to fuel subsidy removal. Forex crisis, experts tells FG. Tribunal, Kaduna APC declares fasting, prayers, 48 hours after NNPPs. Residents invade Bayelsa warehouse, loot spoiled 2022 palliatives. Tinubu bars officials without specific roles from attending UNGA. All right. Also, from the Daily Trust, we have Cameroon notified us 7 days after opening Lagdo Dam, FG.
No, this is totally unacceptable. Moses, you know, not only, this is totally unacceptable.
You think it's a shift of blame?
They are, of course, they are shifting the blame and they are sounding extremely irresponsible. That's what I've said. So it means they don't have that joint monitoring committee. Otherwise, if they did, America has all these things with their neighbors. You know, when they say Nigeria-Ghana Trade Commission, why do you have all those things in place? It is to have, there's a need. These people are your neighbors. I find it is there. You know, I wanted to say that they are lying, but I wouldn't. No. But I wouldn't use the word.
That would be harsh.
That would be extremely harsh. Yeah. So I wouldn't use the word. But the fact is, so fine. If you didn't before, can we have it now? There has got to be with Niger. Why are we so bothered about Niger? It's not because of our security being threatened. Moses, if the Cameroonian government didn't formally notify us, don't we have eyes and ears in Cameroon? Because the government that would have announced in their own on their own news. You get what I'm saying? Maybe a month or time they would have announced and said that there was a meeting between the Minister of Environment and the commission in charge of the.
They would have announced.
They would have announced it on TV a month or time, or maybe let's even say a month or two.
The government of Nigeria should have a representative over there.
What is the ambassador to Cameroon doing there? If you're not monitoring to check what is in our own interest, that's why I say this sounds extremely responsible, and unacceptable. You know, in the Cameroon, do you mean that when Cameroon released their budget for the year, we didn't get a copy of it? Is that you run a government? You will not get a copy of your neighbor's budget to know what they're spending on what. Let me explain to you this. If Nigeria today has, and they check these things, there is a certain amount of money you'll be devoting to defense. It becomes a threat to your neighbors, and they're monitoring these things. They know, they check it out. How come? Because somehow maybe they would, of course, you would have had the minister of whatever in Cameroon say, we've released 3 billion CFAs or whatever now for the Lagdo Dam, whatever, 2 months of time. And so there is no, and then people who live within those communities too. So there is no way we shouldn't have known what was going to come. This thing is not good. It's not good, and you know they need to know that you are serving the people. You're not there because you got a job and you got employment. You're not there for the employment of it. You're there as a service to Nigerians. This is entirely uncharitable. It is unfair. It is unfair.
I think the right word is irresponsible behavior.
To be telling me that they told us 7 days to time. Come on.
So don't blame us if you're asking you to leave in 7 days.
Come on.
That's what it is.
Come on.
Very apt. That's an irresponsible behavior. All right, let's look at this one. 250 billion naira gas expansion fund dormant for 4 years. FG. PSC retires 4 DIGs for not leaving after Igbetokun's appointment.
They say it's tradition. You see, now this story may sound like a little thing, but it's not. Because every now and then, the matter of morality is called into question. The law cannot see everything. The law cannot envisage everything. The law alone cannot fix any country. There must be men and women who are willing to use their initiative, use their goodwill, use their sense of moral aptitude and good judgment to know what is right from what is wrong and to abide what is right. Now, what Solomon Arase said was that, chairman of the PSC, was that these men did not do well to keep with police tradition, which I think is that ostensibly they should have retired as when Igbetokun was appointed.
As when a junior person was elevated. So they should step down.
Even if it was your same rank with you, you can't afford to have because it leads to some collegial, which is not only the former Ibrahim Atahiru, former chief of army staff, who did this for very long, begged his own colleagues to stay with him because he was determined and serious about ending Boko Haram. So he said, you know what, I will need your ideas and your advice from time to time. You guys, please stay. It has never happened before in as part of the tradition. He said, please, you guys stay. I won't let you go. Please stay with me. He was such a good man, But this is the police, and they should have done what they should have done, but they didn't do it. I hope that the larger Nigeria can borrow a leaf from this thing, which is to say that there are you don't have to wait until the law says, or because the law didn't say. So, for example, I'll give an example. When they say somebody has stolen 3 billion naira in his office, and they say the normal thing to happen is for that person to step aside while investigation is taking place. They say no, because he has not been convicted of anything. He should remain there. You cannot be investigating your boss when he's in his office.
Now let's look at this issue, the issue of making people leave a profession. The army is it's not a regular profession. It's a profession that takes a lot of experience. I mean, before you get to a certain level, you would have gone through certain training. These people go for training abroad. They're experienced. And just because one person is favored and elevated, and that position will be occupied for like maybe 4 or 8 years. Now, those that have gathered experience over years of service would have to pack their bags and go do what then? Go do what?
So when
and then what happens to the experience that they gathered over the years? What happens to the manpower? Are we not depleting the manpower?
May I?
Yes, please.
Oh, great. Now, the problem is not just. So your question is very apt because this is a problem with the Nigerian security establishment as a whole. I recall that in 1990 or 1991, the Russian Minister of Defense came to the Soviet head of defense came to Nigeria. Minister of Defense came to Nigeria and found people that were in his cadre in Nigeria. The Nigerian generals were people who had not even been born at the time he joined the military. There was even a study that was done by one of the national delegates called Nigeria's baby generals. Generals at 50-something, and before 4 or 5 years time, you retire and walk away. So the point is noted. Perhaps something can be done, something more traditional, like Solomon Rasa put it, traditional can be done, to see how the elevation of a particular candidate to be head of the service, either the police or one of the services, does not automatically undermine the capacity of the institution itself. Because that's a fundamental issue, which I don't think we should just easily gloss over. Yeah, so there must be a way to effectively and properly and thoroughly probe and question the way we elevate, question the way we go about also retiring these people. Because you retire somebody in his 50s, for example. What should he go doing? He would say sit back at home, although in the Nigerian case, let me be very fair. People don't just retire, Moses. You don't want to know what some people do when, you've left government, but you are still in government by proxy, take contracts, okay, and so on. Those things are always there. Those are perks that sometimes are given, and then they get appointed into boards and stuff like that. So those things are also there. But Nigeria is largely a chronist creation. We must come away from all of those and become a better society and make sure that, like you've raised this point, when one person is elevated, it doesn't necessarily have to undermine the entire institution. We need to probe that because, especially for a country that's fighting a lot of Boko Haram, bandits, God knows what, why retire people like this when you be hiring Tantita to be fighting oil thieves? So you've raised a very important question, and I hope that it's something we can look into with time.
All right, then let's take some headlines from the Nation newspaper now. The banner headline on the Nation is Tinubu target economic revival, 50 million jobs in 3 years. Perform or be fired. Presidency warns ministers. That's how the Nation puts it. APC tackles opposition PDP over Tinubu's economic policies. Cameroon's Lagdo Dam opening sparks fear in 13 flood-prone states. FG, federal government, urges relocation from threatened areas. We've touched on that already. And then when you go on top of the nameplate, we have Citigroup predicts rise in foreign investment. Obaseki fires Shaibu's media aid as rift widens. Why we dropped Sanwo-Olu's nominees by Speaker. Federal government stops frivolous official trips in cost-saving measure. And then we have, right underneath, we have palliatives, warehouse looted in Bayelsa. Oshun secures stores. And then this is a quote. You and I know that the expectation is high and it's a tough time right now. We must work hard, commit ourselves and create a buoyant economy that will serve every Nigerian. This is quoting the president, of course.
Yeah, but so, I mean, a lot of big stories here. They were warehousing expired 2022 palliatives in Bayelsa. What for? Now you warehouse them and they've expired. Why? You know, the story will just go from the loot and end there. You won't hear of any criminal prosecution of people who were warehousing these things.
Cyril, yeah. Sorry, excuse me. Why? I mean, our time is almost up, but why can't we provide in the Constitution an avenue for sitting governors to be prosecuted, to be asked questions, and if the answers are not pleasing enough, be prosecuted?
No, but the thing is, before we come to the prosecution part, please, this is why we have many roads to the same destination. So, for example, you have lawmakers who are supposed to be guardians of the Constitution itself, who, when they find a governor misbehaving or president acting out of line, can sit and begin impeachment proceedings. That's one. Number two, as the way Nigeria is now, one could almost say, you know what, if you take away the immunity clause, so be it, let it be taken away. The fear the framers of the Constitution had back then was that if you allowed that clause to be taken out, all sorts of frivolous cases can be brought against the governor, who will be distracted from facing his responsibility of governance. But the question is, now that the clause has provided protection for the governor, what have they done with the power that they have? One. And number two, that clause has also sort of become a cover for them to undo the good or do what they shouldn't be doing. So as it is right now, I really couldn't care for all that it is worth. That clause has a good role to play. But sincerely speaking, if it went to a vote, I'm not sure I want to make my voice heard anymore, because the reality is that there is a total messing up of the good intent of that legal instrument that said you cannot prosecute a sitting governor. Otherwise, why will you go and warehouse palliatives? You don't need it. Your family does not need it. Your domestic aides don't need it. The people that need it, you keep it away from them. Who told you to do that?
Anyway.
But the point even is, when you are out of office, you can be prosecuted, right? How many have been successfully prosecuted? Today,
because they find a way to stay in power.
The two that went to jail, Solomon, former governor Joshua Darie and Jolly Yame, that were even put in jail. What did they do? Buhari came and granted them pardon and said, go here scot-free and sin no more. So it just means that Nigeria is not yet ready by in any way to deal with the monster called corruption, why wouldn't it continue to fester? I think William Shakespeare said one time, he said, because that because I can't get the quote, but something to the effect of saying that because a good man committed corruption, chastisement fled and said, I can't touch this man. So it was like when one time the judge was driving in his car, the driver was driving the car and against traffic, and the traffic warden said, stop that car. When the motor wound down, two people were in the car. A judge and his orderly, who was superior to the traffic officer, so what the traffic warden do? He lifted up his hand, put it here, and saluted the orderly, and brought back and said, continue. Because the orderly cannot arrest his superior. He saluted him. Instead of talking, he saluted and said, continue, sir. This is where we are as a country. So until we are ready and willing to do what is right, not necessarily because the law said so, but because we know that it is right to do what is right. That's why in Nigeria, anybody who says the law didn't say, that's how you know that they have something to hide. We must be willing to notice what law or what not law do we need to receive palliatives and warehouse them. Come on. It's a matter of conscience.
Wickedness.
It's wickedness. I don't need that. If I need to receive palliative for fear of the law, it means I'm not fit to live among human beings. So these people, we are the other one in Ikorodu even put it in there and was printing birthday. Is it Ikorodu or first?
So how are we even sure that the 50 billion given to them will be used?
5 billion.
5 billion, I beg your pardon.
Because they owe nobody any account. They owe nobody any account.
And the president has said that. It's
a grant.
Yeah.
How many governors?
He cannot tell them that if they don't perform, people should vote them out.
Who voted them in the first place? How many governors in Nigeria today told us that they received their own palliative grants? Only the governor in Kwara said 2 billion has entered. Say Alati Wale. Nobody in this country came out and said that they received. So who is going to call who out, or who is going to put the blame on who? But like I always say, if we are waiting for the law always to tell us what is right, there's a place for the law, don't get me wrong. But everybody waiting for everything to be written in black and white, it means that all of us will go blind before we get things right in this country.
All right, and we pray not to go blind, of course. Well, this is where we close the pages on the newspaper review segment. Thank you very much, Cyril Abaku.
My pleasure, man.
Well, perform or you'll be shown the door. That's what the presidency seems to be saying to ministers. Let's talk about this when we return.
At the guest